Donald Trump on the offensive, going right after Kamala Harris, telling Laura Ingraham he's ready to debate and a whole lot more. We're going to give you the highlights of that exclusive interview. Plus, Democrats doing what they always like to do, segregating themselves away from black people. White dudes for Harris happened, and it's just as cringe as it sounds, and we're going to make you watch it. Plus, this whole J.D. Vance's weird thing kind of backfiring on the Democrats and showing the corporate legacy media to be the Democrat propagandists that they truly are. We're going to marinate in all of that beautiful media in a moment. But first, I need to introduce myself because that's what we do. I'm Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry. Thanks for watching across all of Town Hall Media's streaming platforms. I'm talking about Rumble. I'm talking about YouTube and X and Facebook. Yeah, even those meta people will throw them a bone now and again. Leave your comments, interact with each other because you guys are creating a Town Hall community of your own, and we love it. And speaking of Town Hall, please watch us across all of the Town Hall Media websites. I'm talking Town Hall, of course, the mothership, plus Hot Air and PJ Media and Red State and Twitchy and Bearing Arms. And if you really want an extra special thing, you want to try our VIP experience. Yeah, if you become a VIP member to Town Hall, you'll get not only an ad-free experience, but you'll also get exclusive content, things that, the hoi polloi don't get. Just the real special VIP members of Town Hall get. I'm talking extra special columns from people like Katie Pavlich and Kurt Schlichter and also podcasts and streaming videos just for VIP members. And as an added bonus, because you know me, use my name as your discount code. See there? See right there? Yeah. You'll get 50% off your Town Hall VIP membership if you use the name Larry there in your code. Thanks so much for that. So Donald Trump granted an exclusive interview to Laura Ingraham on Fox News Channel, and they hit a lot of topics. But this is what I like about Laura Ingraham. She recognizes that man does not live by Republican, Democrat alone or politics alone. No, there's a lot of big stuff going on in our world that goes well beyond just legislation. And so she asked Donald Trump about his impression of that culturally and religiously offensive opening ceremonies in Paris for the Olympics. And Trump did not hold back.
Have you watched any of the Olympics?
I thought that the opening ceremony was a disgrace, actually. I thought it was a disgrace.
The mocking of the Last Supper.
I thought it was
Catholics and Christians across
the
globe are outraged.
I mean, they can do certain things. I thought it was terrible.
Can you say at the next Olympics, if you're present, you'll have enough influence on the organizers that we won't be, insulting Christians.
We won't be having a Last Supper as portrayed the way they portrayed it the other night. I just think, look, I'm for everybody. I'm very open-minded. You understand. Yeah. You know me better than most people know me. I'm very open-minded. But I thought what they did was a disgrace.
So, by the way, for those of you who don't know, 4 years from now, the Olympics will be here in the United States of America. It's going to be in Los Angeles. It's 4 years from right now. So whoever the next president is, they will be the presiding head of state for the United States when we welcome the world to Gavin Newsom's California. So there may very well be some influence on what kind of content and how we best present ourselves, our nation, and our culture to the rest of the world. So I think it's significant, actually. And then Kamala Harris should be asked the same question. Are you okay with what happened there at the Olympics? Do you have an opinion about that? I'd love to hear because, see, she can't help but offend someone with her answer. Donald Trump, of course, doesn't mind standing on the side of Christians who actually take things like the Lord's Supper rather seriously, if not sacred. Let's see where Kamala Harris stands on it. Along the lines of discussions of faith and equating what people's foundational moral compass tells them based on their Judeo-Christian beliefs, Donald Trump went on to discuss where we are as a nation right now and as a people and how it might affect this upcoming election.
They're also attacking you for other ridiculous reasons. They're saying that you said to a crowd of Christians that they won't have to vote in the future.
Yeah, let me say what did I mean by that? I had a tremendous crowd speaking to Christians. I mean, this was a crowd that liked me a lot. I think I'm at 97% or something. And they're treated very badly by this administration, okay? Catholics are treated unbelievably. They're like persecuted. And if I might say, before I go into the other, Jewish people, if you're Jewish and you vote for Biden or the Democrats or Kamala or whoever's going to run, I guess it's going to be her. But if you voted for her or the Democrats, you should have your head examined, because nobody's ever been treated so badly by this. This administration is destroying Israel, et cetera, et cetera. So with respect to like a statement like I made, that statement is very simple. I said, vote for me. You're not going to have to do it ever again. It's true, because we have to get the vote out. Christians are not known as a big voting group. They don't vote. And I'm explaining that to them. You never vote. This time, vote. I'll straighten out the country. You won't have to vote anymore. I won't need your vote. You can go back to not
you don't have to vote.
And by the way, I just want to jump in here because this clip. I'm sure you've seen it go viral, where Trump was at a Turning Point conference and he said, as you just heard him say, Christians, just come on out, please vote this November. Then you don't have to worry about it again. Nobody took that other than sort of the flip, joking remark that Trump was making, except for either absolutely brain dead extremists on the left. He said, look, he's admitting he's a fascist. He's admitting he's an authoritarian. He's admitting that there won't be any elections. I saw people who consider themselves legitimate intellectuals and journalists, of course, making that claim. Here he is saying it out loud. Everyone should listen to him. He's telling you we're going to end all elections, which of course is not what he said at all. He said you won't have to worry about voting because the next term is going to be so successful that we're going to reset all of the problems that you've seen this country go into for the last 50 or 60 years. Nobody believes that. The only people who believe it are brain dead, as I said, left-wing journalists or people who absolutely know better and are just trying to lie and manipulate you. They're gaslighting you. They're manipulating you. They're lying to you. They're trying to make people terrified and outraged. It's not working. It hasn't worked at all. Why we have to even waste time on this, I don't know. But here we are. And so, yes, here's Donald Trump explaining, no, if anyone was wondering, I didn't mean that I'm going to end all elections. You know how I know Donald Trump isn't going to end all elections? Because Donald Trump can't end all elections. It's impossible. All right. Back to Trump.
For you, because you have 4 years in office.
Look. Christians are known. You know who else doesn't vote? Gun owners don't vote.
But just to be clear, what you're saying, though, you're not saying it's being interpreted as you are not surprised to hear.
No,
by the left as well. They're never going to have another election. He's saying there's not. So can you even just respond to that?
I said Christians. I started off by saying, just so you understand, you never vote. Christians do not vote well. They vote in very small percentages. Why? I don't know. Maybe they're disappointed in things that are happening. But for a long time, I say, you don't vote. I'm saying, go out. You must vote. November 5th is going to be the most important election in the history of our country. Whether you vote early or not, we should have, by the way, one-day voting. We should have voter ID. We should have proof of citizenship. And we should have paper ballots, okay? That's what we should have. But we don't have that. But I said to the Christians in the room, thousands of them, I said, typically, Christians do not vote. Why it is, I don't know. You're rebellious. Something's going on. Don't worry about the future. You have to vote on November 5th. After that, you don't have to worry about voting anymore. I don't care, because we're going to fix it. The country will be fixed, and we won't even need your vote anymore because, frankly, we will have such love. If you don't want to vote anymore, that's okay. And I think everybody understood it. I didn't know there was any.
Well, everybody did understand it, unless you're a left-wing moron or you're a manipulative liar. But now it's cleared up. Everybody happy now? And by the way, for those of us who are conservative, who are Republicans, who have voted for Trump and support Trump for the presidency, many of us often, frankly, get frustrated by what you just saw there. Which is, again, sort of unforced error. I understand the point you're making, but you didn't have to make it in the way that you made it, because those of us who communicate publicly for a living, and politicians are people that communicate publicly for a living, they have to recognize, fairly or not, that if the words that they say are often twisted and misconstrued, then you be extra careful with the words that you use. Most of us are like that. Now, Donald Trump, he doesn't really give it. He really doesn't. And I get that. And that's what a lot of people love about him, that he just goes up there and he doesn't have any more to give. I get that. Good. However, you then end up spending time in interviews and spending a whole news cycle of stupid social media outrage, reacting to stuff that is a waste of time. But that's the issue when you're supporting Donald Trump. You get the good and you get the challenging sometimes. And this is one of those things that was challenging, not necessary. This whole idea of, well, you guys don't usually vote, but you need to vote and just vote this time and you won't have to vote again. Inartful, let's say, but obviously not the call for authoritarianism that the left lied to everyone about. All right, now he focuses attention on Kamala Harris, and he's got many attacks and many challenges on the woman who would be president.
She was a bad prosecutor in San Francisco. She led the cashless bail and all of the different things. She was the first of all of the bad prosecutors that have allowed, if you look at the 25 top cities, they're basically all Democrat. The prosecutors are weak. She was she destroyed, she's a San Francisco liberal.
They're pushing for debates with you.
Yeah.
It went down in flames for them last time, but they think this is they're going to get you. So you've been kind of a little unclear about whether you're going to debate or not. Will you commit tonight to debating Kamala?
So I like real fast. And again, I like Laura Ingraham, but I as a person who interviews and presents information and topics to y'all every day like this, live without a script, I hate when we buy into the left's narratives, when we use their language, like the whole, Biden is trying to destroy the Supreme Court. He is trying to completely upend the Supreme Court of the United States, and even conservative media personalities are saying, well, we got to look at these Biden Supreme Court reforms. They're not reforms. Nothing about them are reforms. Are you kidding me? He's trying to take over the Supreme Court. And this is one of them too. Donald Trump has not been, hemming and hawing about whether he wants to debate Kamala Harris. Donald Trump and the Trump campaign has not been hedging and waffling about whether they're going to debate. They've been very clear. We never agreed to debate Kamala Harris. We had lengthy negotiations and reached an agreement to debate Joe Biden. Now, just because Joe Biden is physically and mentally incapable of making good on that agreement that we had, or because he's been pushed out of the way by an unelected Barack Obama and a silent coup within his own administration, and now Kamala Harris has been placed there as the new nominee by a very small handful of rich and powerful people who want to be her puppet master, that doesn't mean that we automatically have to debate her under the same terms that we negotiated with a completely different person. That's what they've been saying. It's not, oh, maybe we'll debate, maybe we won't. No. And they didn't back out of a debate. As soon as Joe Biden stepped off of the ticket, the debate was canceled. There are no debates. It was a Trump-Biden debate. Now, if Kamala Harris wants to come and work out a plan for a new debate, she's welcome to do that. But why does Laura Ingraham have to buy into this false narrative, a liberal narrative, a left-wing narrative, a Democrat narrative? I don't think that she agrees with them. I think that I think she didn't think it through, is all. All right, but let's get Trump's response. What about the debate?
I like debating. I've done a lot of debates, and I've won the debates. I think they say I won the election because of that. I don't mind. They were pushing for this early debate. I said, why do we want to do an early debate? It didn't make sense to me. It turned out I was right, but for the wrong reasons, right? I want to do a debate, but I also can say this. Everybody knows who I am, and now people know who she is. She's a radical left lunatic. She'll destroy our country. She wants open borders.
Then why not debate her?
Well, wait. But because they already know everything. She wants to defund our police. She wants no bail. She wants no cash. You kill somebody and we're going to release you immediately. They call it cashless. That's it. By the way, this has been a horrible thing for our country.
Yeah. So as you can see, and we'll get to the debate question in a second, but as you can see, Trump is armed with all of the appropriate ways to go after Kamala Harris. And I want to be clear here because what you're hearing from the media that is in the tank for her, and we'll show you even more examples of that throughout the program today. You're hearing that they're going after Kamala as a DEI hire, as a woman. They're making fun of her cackle. They're doing this, they're doing that. No, actually, every major criticism from the candidates and from the apparatus around the candidates has been laser pointed on exactly who this woman is, what she stands for, what she believes, what her policies have been, and what she's promised to do if she gets into office. This is a actually incredibly high-minded, thoughtful, policy-based attack on her, which is quite a contrast to what they're doing with Trump and JD Vance. But that's what you're seeing. Now, are there people on social media who are making fun of her laugh, including me? You betcha. But spoiler alert, we don't work for the Trump campaign. Are there things to make fun of with her because of her vacuous sentences, like what can be unburdened by what has been, that she repeats over and over again about 1,000 times in every speech? Of course. The fact that she loves Venn diagrams makes her one of the strangest human beings that you've ever met, because that's all she talks about, that and yellow school buses. And the fact that they had to hire child actors to pretend they like her when she talked to them about space. Of course, that's a target-rich environment. That's all part of the package, because frankly, I don't know about you, I don't want to spend 4 years with that moron in my living room every day representing me to the world. Do you? No. But from this guy, from their campaign, it's been incredibly focused on the disastrous policies. You know, for people who always tell pollsters in America, you know, voters are funny. Voters are always like, oh, I hate the two choices we have. Well, how'd we get the two choices? The voters are the ones who pick these two choices. The very people who vote for the two choices in the primaries are the same ones who will tell pollsters, oh, I wish we had that. And those voters will also tell pollsters, whenever asked, I wish we could have a serious debate of the issues. I wish there weren't any negative attacks or personal attacks or attacks about people's appearance or about their love lives and their marriages. No, I just want a high-minded discussion of the topics. But here's the thing. They ignore the actual discussion of the topics and the issues that are being brought forth by the campaigns. And they'll react to the negative. You know why people use negative campaign tactics? Because they work with the voters, the very same voters who say they hate them. So I want you to pay attention as Trump goes in here, because he is very specific about the disastrous policies from Kamala Harris. He doesn't even have to touch all of the odious things about her personality.
It's the constant refrain. I mean, he's after they have done all the things that we've talked about.
Horrible.
All of the things.
Russia, all the things.
And dump their guy of 52 years. Just dump him to the side. So they do all that. And then they say, well, no, you can't vote for him because he's literally never going to leave office. They're actually still saying that.
Yeah. It's just unbelievable.
But you will leave office after 4 years.
By the way, and I did last time. I kept hearing, he's not going to leave. He's not going to leave. Look. They are the ones that are a threat to democracy. Number one, they had an incompetent man as president, okay? Now they have somebody who's worse. She's sort of incompetent. She's not very smart, but she's very radical. Very radical. She will try and defund the police. She's going to try and defund.
Is she more of an extremist than most Americans today still understand?
Than Bernie. They say more than Bernie. More than Bernie Sanders.
He endorsed her.
Bernie Sanders is a major lunatic, okay? She's worse than Bernie Sanders. Now, she's trying to come back. She got rid of the laugh. I noticed I haven't seen that crazy laugh that she got. She's crazy. That laugh, that's the laugh of a crazy person. But I noticed that she's not using that laugh anymore. Somebody convinced her, don't laugh. Just don't laugh. Don't laugh under any circumstances, because
I like laughter, but sometimes.
Not her laughter.
But she claims now she's tough. She's tough on crime.
All right. Maybe just one jab at the laugh. But come on. I mean, this is a man who won against Hillary Clinton, and the similarities are uncanny. All right, finishing up, though, on the issues.
She was a tough prosecutor. Never the borders are.
She was a bad prosecutor. She was a prosecutor of black people. She put thousands and thousands of black people in jail over marijuana. But when it came to big crime, murders and everything else, she was weak. she would love to go after Trump. You know, she says, oh, Trump, 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 I did nothing wrong. They did a lot wrong, but I did nothing wrong. This was a totally manufactured deal. This was an attack on a political opponent. And she was involved in that with Biden. And so far, it's backfired because people know this was an attack on a political opponent.
Yeah, all the legal lawfare attacks on Donald Trump absolutely have backfired. That's obvious and that's clear. One other thing about her record in California, they're very smart and right to label her a San Francisco, California liberal Democrat, because that's what she is. And for the first time in our history, over 170 years since California has been in the United States of America, more people are leaving the Golden State than entering the Golden State because of the policies of Jerry Brown, Kamala Harris, and Gavin Newsom. That's the trifecta there that have ruined the state. And the most important, significant law that changed that state for the worse and must be reversed was a state proposition that was presented to the people of California as criminal justice reform. It had a lot in it. It included the cashless bail that you just heard Donald Trump lay out there. It had sentencing and prison reform. And one of those things was to change thefts, including shoplifting, where the value of the goods stolen were up to, I believe it was $950, that crime would be a misdemeanor instead of a felony. Have you seen those videos where people walk into stores and clear out the shelves and nobody does anything in California? It's because of that law. And the police know, the prosecutors know about this law, and prosecutors have pretty full plates. I mean, I'm talking about the prosecutors who actually want to put the bad guys away. You know, George Gascon down in Los Angeles County, he actually wants bad guys walking the streets. But real, earnest prosecutors who want to do their jobs as district attorneys and prosecute the bad guys, they know that they've got a very, very full plate and they can only allocate their budget certain ways. And if they arrest somebody for stealing $900 from a CVS, and that's just going to be a misdemeanor, and you go through all the work to get them prosecuted and they end up getting a suspended sentence, well, that's not great return on investment for the money that you're spending. So you end up not prosecuting those crimes. And when the police know that the prosecutors will not be prosecuting those crimes, the police tend to not arrest for those crimes. And if the police don't arrest for those crimes, then the store owners end up not calling the police when they're victims of those crimes. That's what's happened in California. And who wrote that? Who was the architect for that? Who was the brainchild behind that? California Attorney General Kamala Harris. And she will do to this country what she did to California. Make no mistake. One other part of this interview, which I thought was fantastic, was turning to the former First Lady, Donald Trump's wife, Melania, and her reaction to the nightmare that's gone on over the last several weeks and, frankly, for the last couple of years with the use of the legal system against Donald Trump and then the nightmare of an assassin's bullet. Let's take a look.
What was Melania's reaction, if you don't mind my asking? I know this is very personal, when she learned about what happened on that field in Butler?
She was watching.
Oh, she was watching in real time?
She was watching live. It was all over the place. It was on television. It was on your network, but it was all over the place. And she was watching. I asked her that. I mean, I wasn't there. I was on the ground. And when the world started to, like, you could talk to people, I said, so what was your feeling? And she was, she can't really even talk about it.
Traumatized.
Which is okay, because that means she likes me.
She
loves me.
That's good.
I mean, let's say she could talk about it freely. That wouldn't be, I'm not so sure which is better. But she either likes or loves me, and that's nice. But I will say this, look, she was, when I went down, she thought the worst had happened, because I went down. And I grabbed my, and I saw it was, my hand was loaded up with blood. You see it in slow motion, instant replay. You know, we had hundreds of press there. So this was covered live. They would have had instant replay and everything else, which they already do in this. But supposing the worst happened, you know, one man, Corey, was killed, hit horribly,
amazing man,
horribly in the head. And, you know, to guard it, he was guarding his family.
That's why how important it is to get to the bottom of why this was allowed to occur. I mean, he died.
Yeah, we do need to get to the bottom. But by the way, just to give you a preview, and I promised you that even though the mainstream media is trying to ignore this and memory hole it, and big tech is trying to keep you from even searching for information about the assassination attempt of Donald Trump, which now they've artificially reversed, and now it's like, what are you talking about? You can totally search the information. Yeah, nice try, guys. I just want you to know that as we speak, there is a joint hearing going on in the Senate. And they've got testimony from the FBI, I think deputy director, and the person now running the Secret Service. They're talking about the assassination attempt. Really good questioning so far coming from lawmakers, and we're going to give you a big rundown of all of that tomorrow. But what we're not going to have is the Secret Service director sitting there saying, I don't know, that question's for the FBI. You'll have to talk to them. And then you wait 3 days, and then you get the FBI director in there, and they say, I don't know, that's a question for the Secret Service. You have to talk to them. No, they're sitting side by side. So none of that crap. That's going on right now, and we're going to continue to pursue that story too. But that was yesterday. That was, that's vintage Donald Trump right there. And it looks like he's ready and loaded for bear for Kamala Harris with a full-on, all-out attack on her policies and what she would do to this country. And we're ready for it. By the way, if any of you like Matt Fradd and Pints with Aquinas, let him know there's a dude in D.C. who would love to come out to Steubenville sometime. Just saying. Was that shameless, Kevin?
Extremely.
We could have the town hall legions all go over to Pints with Aquinas and spam him with comments saying, you should have Larry on. You want to come with me to Steubenville? Would that be fun?
We could move on to the next segment.
Oh, okay. Yesterday was a whites-only segregated meeting of Democrats. Now, I know I could be streaming a show from the mid-19th century with that kind of intro, but no, it really is 2024, and I don't think we were streaming back in the mid-19th century. But I want to give you a taste of just how cringe white dudes for Harris was.
I'm white, I'm a dude, and I'm for Harris.
Over the last few years, I've been thinking a lot about men.
I'm not sure if you guys can recall that feeling you had on the night of Tuesday, November 8th, 2016. I stood over my kid's bed and I wept.
White nationalists in MAGA, they want to speak for you specifically as white men.
In the marginalized communities that educate me every single day, that this is a constant education for all of us.
Kamala is carrying on her shoulders 248 years of pain, of agony, of hope, of frustration. And no matter how high she jumps, no matter how many degrees she has, no matter how good her grades are, she's never good enough because they're always moving the line.
What a variety of whiteness we have here, with like a rainbow of beige.
But man, I am scared to death of what the future could look like if we go back to another Trump administration, one that truly left working construction white men behind.
You've seen it with congressional leaders who have called Vice President Harris a DEI candidate.
Of course, men are also more free in a country where we have a president who stands up for things like access to abortion care.
Let's be clear about who Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are. Donald Trump is a 34-time convicted felon, an adjudicated rapist, and a congenital liar. He's a fraud. And J.D. Vance is his mini-me. I even created my own cognitive test that describes the two of them. Sofa, dolphin, shark, cats, convict.
Real men respect women, their decisions, their careers. And it's pretty clear that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance don't.
A woman president, man. How exciting.
If there is a God, she's a terrible writer.
One day, we all will be asked what we did to stop this MAGA movement. What will your answer be?
All right. Good job, Brianna Morello, by the way, in the Daily Caller. That's a great compilation. I do want to just touch on the very beginning of it because I think it needs a little bit of commentary if we could. First,
white, I'm a dude, and I'm for Harris.
Yes, that is the dude from The Big Lebowski, and I'm just as disappointed as you are. Moving on.
Over the last few years, I've been thinking a lot about men.
I think that speaks for itself. Although I do want to point out that nothing says a bunch of dudes getting together and hanging out like the man with the scrawny beard that he can't grow, giant glasses that make his head look like a walnut, and a man bun, I believe he's sporting there in his studio apartment in New York. Oh, maybe it's a loft because I do see stairs right behind him. I'm shocked that this wasn't brought to you by Acme soy products, but it turns out the actual advertiser here was Maxi Pads. I had no idea. That's interesting. I guess they thought they were going to be reaching their demographic for this one. And this one, by the way, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut him off. Nothing says the regular working man like sitting poolside in LA with your palm trees, your pink polo, your sunglasses. Thanks for taking those off for us, Josh. And not even bothering to frame your camera so that you're in the center of the shot. That's Josh Gad, by the way. Gay man, actor. You know him best as the voice of the most annoying Disney character ever created. And that's saying something. That stupid little snowman from Frozen. So every time you spend money on Disney and Disney products, you're helping this guy. And that's white dudes for Harris. But there's a couple of these moments that I really do want to bring. And by the way, did you catch the theme there? Did you catch the theme? It's all fear. It's all fear. We're here to talk about how great Kamala Harris is. Now let's trash Trump. It's all fear. That's all they've got. But I do want to pull out a couple of these moments here. Take a look.
When I first saw the white dudes for Harris byline, I thought, oh, that's a little cringy. And I realized my own bias, which is we hear about white men congregating and we think of tiki torches and AR-15s and the Klan. And I think it's a really beautiful opportunity for us to take back that identity from those bands of bigots and misogynists, because they don't define who we are.
That's so wise. I hadn't really ever thought of it that way. We need to take back the idea of a bunch of white people getting together and segregating ourselves from black people and show it to be the pure, wonderful, inclusive thing that it really is. Because they can't define. Those white bigots shouldn't be allowed to define who we are. But of course, they're the ones who define white people. Aren't they the ones who, whenever they show the Republican National Convention and it is a majority white gathering, and they say, look, it looks like a Klan meeting. I mean, they're the ones who are constantly injecting their own racist perspectives on everything that they see in society. And now he's deciding that since we're getting together on behalf of Kamala, well, that makes our segregation virtuous. You really do need to have brain damage to follow along their thought process. And then I don't know if you caught this in the middle of that montage from Daily Caller, but I really do want to draw attention to it. As usual, when you're having a Congress of white dudes for Kamala, you're by definition going to have a whole lot of gay guys showing up. And here's the most prominent gay man in America. No, not RuPaul. Of course, you know who I mean. Pete Buttigieg, Mayor Pete. And and again with the camera angle, why does he think? What is he trying to be? He looks like Mr. Bean, doesn't he? He looks like Mr. Bean, but sounds like Kermit the Frog. And here he wants to convey to everybody how critically important it is for men to vote for Kamala Harris, because Kamala will bring back the beautiful, ethical, moral act of killing babies that men create before they're born, so that men can be free and unburdened by fatherhood. This, of course, is coming from the gay man who rented out a woman's uterus to create a baby for himself. There's a sentence that's not often uttered, but should be more often, I think.
I'm so glad she has made freedom the theme of her campaign, because I think in so many ways that's what's at stake. And yes, women's freedom is exhibit A. after Donald Trump demolished the right to choose. But of course, men are also more free in a country where we have a president who stands up for things like access to abortion care.
Wow. That is, I mean, I do love it when they admit what they really stand for. Quick correction here on the language. Donald Trump did not abolish the right to choose. There never actually was a right to choose, just so you know. And what Donald Trump did was appoint Supreme Court justices who evaluated a case in front of them and found that this bogus idea of Roe v. Wade and the right to choose was an invention and should have never have happened. And so they reversed that with the Dobbs decision. That's a beautiful thing. And now each state is allowed to actually have the choice to vote on abortion in their own way, which is how our founders intended. But that's okay. They just need to warp the language as much as possible. But you did catch the last part of it there, right? Where men have freedom because of abortion.
Men are also more free in a country where we have a president who stands up for things like access to abortion care.
There you go. So, I mean, this is supposed to, I guess, appeal to, well, this was the men's only club. So maybe this is just supposed to appeal to the men. Hey, guys, it's just us talking. Go ahead and screw around however much you want. Get women pregnant. There will be no strings attached, no circumstances, no consequences, because we'll just kill that baby. But go ahead and screw around with as many women as you want. And I do love that that message is being delivered by the gay dude. But at least we know what they say. I mean, listen, you can never tell me that they don't have any principles. They do stand for something. That's what they stand for. And then there was, as you saw, a lot of people from Hollywood who showed up in this. And to say that it's disappointing to see people that you respected and had great fondness for based on how well they were able to pretend and play make-believe on camera turn out to be just morally bankrupt lunatics, it hurts. Now, sadly, over many years now, we have grown to know that Mark Hamill is a complete and total lunatic. But he really outdid himself on this segregated racist call. Watch.
They want to do, get rid of the Department of Education completely. They're going to try and remake what we know as democracy into an autocracy. It's no surprise that he idolizes Viktor Orban and the dictators of the world. That's what he yearns to be. Again, he said it out loud that he wants to be a dictator from day one. So never has it been more important for us to stand up to his mental illness and vote for Kamala in 2024.
Well, it does take an expert in mental illness to be able to project that kind of diagnosis, I suppose. Maybe Luke did some shots over there at the cantina before he turned his webcam on. Real fast, just for clarity's sake, because I don't like it when lies are just spewed out there. Donald Trump never said he wanted to be a dictator from day one. What he said in a very flippant and sarcastic way when Sean Hannity asked if he was going to be a dictator, he said, only on the first day. On day one, I'm going to, do this and this and this and set up people to investigate that. And again, back to something I said earlier in the program, when Trump makes jokes and he says things like that, he should be cognizant of the fact that, people are going to take this stuff. So they keep saying he's going to be a dictator from day one. No, he jokingly said on day one, I'll do this. And then after that, from that point forward, of course not. That said, Luke Skywalker here, Mark Hamill, is completely unhinged and frankly, not very bright. And I say that not because I'm just throwing a pejorative at him. I actually, years and years and years ago, worked on a show, Broadway show with Mark Hamill. It was a play called The Nerd. It was at the Helen Hayes Theater. I worked at that theater in the front of house staff. He was one of the actors in the show. I got to see him firsthand back in 1991, I want to say. He's not very bright. That's all. But he's Luke Skywalker. So, of course, he's included in this call. And did you notice how sort of like free-flowing he was? And he didn't obviously take notes. He didn't know what he was doing. He was just going off. But boy, he just unhinged attack on Donald Trump. There's something about being in that white only space that really, really brings out the best of Mark Hamill. He should probably pray about that a little bit. And now this next one, I'm beyond sad and disappointed to relay to you. I don't know anything about this actor, Sean Astin, other than the great work that he's done. Some of you may love him, of course, as Rudy, right? The little plucky Notre Dame kid who volunteered to be on the practice squad, and then his moment in the sun there for the Golden Domers. Or, of course, if you're a father my age, as I am, you probably know him as the voice of Secret Agent Ojo. But forever, he'll be immortalized as Samwise. Samwise Gamgee, right?
Yep.
Is that right? Gamgee, yeah. Sam in Lord of the Rings. He's brilliant in that. He's wonderful. He'll break your heart as Sam in Lord of the Rings. And boy, he just broke my heart too.
He was always coming back to be with his men's group. I think they had more than white men in that group. So, but the idea that men can gather to talk about how we feel, interesting, powerful concept. And to include all, we said in our invitation, everyone is welcome. That's a really interesting phrase. Everyone is welcome. You might hear it in other places. I'm pretty sure you can feel that it's true here with this particular political party and this particular candidate.
Well, that was just drivel, but what are you going to do? Let me just say, this whole concept of white women for Kamala, white dudes for Kamala, this whole thing, if it rubs you sort of odd and weird and you're a little repulsed by it, good. That's normal. You should be repulsed by it. This whole idea that it's okay for us all to get together and have our own space and just talk amongst ourselves about politics. Why does the left have to make everything so bizarre? Why do liberals have to overthink this crap? I mean, there's nothing new and innovative about men getting together and hanging out and just being themselves and talking about stuff that they probably wouldn't talk about with women around, except for the fact for the last 30, 40 years, the political left in this country has demonized men for wanting to do that. And they've tried to make men's only clubs, segregated or abolished. And now suddenly men are like liberal men, left-wing men are like, hey, this is a great idea. Let's do a big deal about it. And let's raise money. And by the way, the only breakthrough for them that has got them to this place where they can say it's a fantastic thing for men only to get together is if they're doing it in support of a woman's maniacal political career. But if you see the way they talk to each other and you are sort of repulsed by the fact that they all treat each other in such an infantilized way. We played the clip yesterday of the woman who literally is a kindergarten teacher. And for the next 4 years of your life, you're going to have women like that running the country, talking to you like you're 5 years old. If that bothers you, good. Our friend Mary Catherine Ham, a town hall alum, now a Fox News contributor, she sort of took up the talk to voters like a 5-year-old style to make a satirical point, and it's brilliant, and I want you to see it.
Uh-oh, Spaghetti-O. It seems like we've had a little misunderstanding. Sounds like some of you have some silly goose thoughts about race-segregated political meetings. Catch a bubble. We do have special meetings for white women and white men. These people are gathering because they don't want to, does anybody know, because they don't want to be around people of other races? No, that is a super sad choice of how to characterize that. They're gathering together because they don't want Republicans elected. We have to fight white supremacy, friends, by joining white-only groups of friends. I know that sounds ironic, but if we put our listening ears on, we can learn about racism for the right reasons. That's what we're doing. Got it? Got it? And I'm not going to let your unkindness mess with other people's joy in their whites only meetings. Can you do? No, you cannot do this. No one else can do this. Only Democrats can safely gather in whites only affinity groups with matching hats. There's no history there. Do you have some big feelings about that? Okay, maybe this will make you feel better. Yes, there are, of course, meetings for Democrats of all other races. The meetings are separate but equal.
Yeah, that was pretty brilliant. Love Mary Catherine. And of course, that's satire. But even in a satirical setting, it's so annoying. So I'm glad she ended the video there because a little bit of it goes a long way. As we continue to focus on who Kamala Harris is, what she stands for, what her record is, and what she intends to do to this country, it's good to take it to the streets as well and find out if regular voters who are big time all in for Kamala Harris, if they can just sort of tell us about her greatest accomplishments. I mean, celebrate the reason for your vote. I mean, you must really have a lot to say about Kamala Harris. Why don't you share that with us? Tell us about her. You're going to have as much time as you want. Tell us about her greatest accomplishments as vice president. Okay, go.
Can you name a few of her accomplishments?
No, I can't.
What are some of her accomplishments?
I will say that everything that I've seen, I don't think that, no. I honestly don't think she has any. The 4 years that she was in office as vice president, I didn't hear her speak once until like last week. So that's kind of my take on it.
Honestly, I think she's going to do best with voters like that. If you have not heard Kamala Harris speak in the last 4 years, you're probably open to voting for her, if not enthusiastic about voting for her. And I assure you, the remaking of Kamala Harris and the toning down of everything that's idiosyncratic and annoying about her is occurring as we speak. You realize that about 6 months ago, there were op-ed pieces in the New York Times and open discussions on cable news about why Joe Biden needs to replace Kamala Harris, that Kamala Harris is the biggest liability to the ticket because, you know, most voters recognized that Joe Biden was not going to make it 4 years. And when you look at the specter of Kamala Harris as your president, people were, you know, sticking their finger down their throat and vomiting up their last meal at the thought of it. But now they're stuck with her. So what are they going to do? Well, hopefully focus on everything Kamala Harris is not. That's all they can do, really. So when you ask about her accomplishments, they don't really get very far. Donald Trump and his ad campaign team, they've put together a little reminder, again, on the issues of what Kamala Harris has done in the past and what she intends to do in the future. Take a look at their latest ad.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message. This is America's border czar, and she's failed us. Under Harris, over 10 million illegally here. 250,000 Americans dead from fentanyl. Brutal migrant crimes. And ISIS now here.
Do you have any plans to visit the border? You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. I mean, I don't understand the point that you're making.
Kamala Harris, failed, weak, dangerously liberal.
That's right. She's a San Francisco, California liberal. She helped ruin the state of California. And the one job she had for Joe Biden was the border. And I do love the fact that we've been talking about it for a week, that they've been trying to work overtime to separate her from the border and immigration policies. And so that's not true. She was never the border czar, never the border czar, never in charge of the border, never in charge of the border. Yet at the same time, they tell us what a great and complete success Biden's border policies were. Remember, for the first 3 years of this presidency, the border is secure, never been more secure. Then when it became politically untenable to continue to lie about the border, then they said, well, yeah, we've got a border problem, but we need Republicans to help us fix it, which is ridiculous because you didn't need Republicans to break it. You broke it unilaterally, and you certainly could have just reversed your original policies from day one. That was just an attempt to upend everything Trump had accomplished in 4 years, and they succeeded because that created disaster in the first place. And now they're claiming that Kamala Harris had nothing to do with the border. If the border is really a success, they would be running and jumping and putting her on a pedestal, creating a monument in D.C. for the greatest border czar in the history of our country. They're acknowledging that the border is a disaster. They're just trying to separate her from it. It's the same way they get upset when you call her a DEI hire, even though Joe Biden, in his own words, said diversity and equity and inclusion are hallmarks of our presidency and something that we take very seriously. That's why I picked Kamala Harris as vice president. I mean, he's literally saying she was picked for DEI, and they take that as an insult, which is fascinating to me, isn't it to you? Because I'm told in my quarterly HR lessons that I have to take, because I work for a major corporation, I'm told that DEI is the greatest, most pristine, beautiful virtue that anyone can hold. If you embrace diversity, equity, inclusion, you are a saint. You're going straight to heaven. There's going to be a feast day for you. That's how beautiful and wonderful DEI is. DEI is the most important thing that we value in this country. So explain to me why calling Kamala Harris the DEI vice president is an insult. If it's so wonderful, I mean, the very people who tell us that DEI is incredible and wonderful and must be embraced and must be held up on a pedestal as the main goal, the main objective that we should all be striving for. And then you say, oh, is that right? Well, Kamala Harris represents DEI. How dare you say that about her? Yeah, that's like saying the N-word. And of course, it's not like saying the N-word because I can say DEI without any sort of social, cultural ramifications, but I can't say the N-word. That's why we say N-word instead of, right? Because that would be inappropriate. So it's not just like saying the N-word. I'm going off on a tangent here just to point out that they're liars. They're liars and they're hypocrites and they're inconsistent and they stand for nothing. They stand for nothing except winning and power and controlling you and the way you talk. That's why they're now telling you not to use DEI, even though they are the ones who have forced DEI on all of us. Got it? Good. Now, Kamala Harris has her own TV ad. She's taking this to the airways. She's trying to get younger voters with a brand new TV ad. The response from younger voters was, "What's a TV?" That said, here's her new ad.
The one thing Kamala Harris has always been: fearless. As a prosecutor, she put murderers and abusers behind bars. As California's Attorney General, she went after the big banks and won $20 billion for homeowners. And as Vice President, she took on the big drug companies to cap the cost of insulin for seniors. Because Kamala Harris has always known who she represents.
This campaign is about who we fight for. We believe in a future where every person has the opportunity not just to get by, but to get ahead. Where every senior can retire with dignity. But Donald Trump wants to take our country backward, to give tax breaks to billionaires and big corporations and end the Affordable Care Act. But we are not going back. I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Well, I'll tell you, that voice isn't annoying at all. I got to commend her, though. It only took 45 seconds in her ad to talk about Donald Trump. Usually it's about 10 seconds in because, you know, that's what they stand for, not being Trump. We are not going back is going to be something you hear over and over and over again from the Harris people because they think it works. That and calling Donald Trump weird. What's interesting, though, is she is taking a lot of fire right now. Kamala Harris is not from conservatives and Republicans and Trump. No, from the left. And it's actually going to leave a mark because there is an alternative for liberals in this election. That's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So there's a X account called Holding Biden Accountable. Push Biden Left is the handle. All right. And they've got 140,000 followers, right? Leftist critique of Biden started with Trump, now on Biden. Bad things are still bad when Dems do them, tracking how nothing would fundamentally change. Okay, you go with your bad self. So they start out this thread with, who really is Joe Biden's handpicked successor, Kamala Harris? She didn't just fall out of a coconut tree. Here's a comprehensive thread. And of course, they show a picture of her with Border Patrol down there at Joe Biden's wall. Wait, she went to the border? I do love that the one person who has a photograph of her at the border when she was there for about 20 seconds is a group on the left who hate Kamala Harris. All right. So what do they say? Before Senator Harris became vice president, she launched her career as a tough on crime top cop, rising from district attorney of San Francisco to attorney general of California. Of course, she got into the DA of San Francisco job thanks to her very close relationship with her political ally, Willie Brown. Let's just call it a very close relationship. Can we say that? Let's say that. Sure. In solid blue California, Kamala campaigned on the right-wing position of repeatedly laughing at the idea of legalizing marijuana, despite the fact that even her Republican opponents supported it. That's true.
Your opponent, Ron Gold, has said that he is for the legalization of marijuana recreationally. Your thoughts on that?
That he is entitled to his opinion. Ask about your position on legalizing marijuana. I'm not a proponent of that, but I know there are a lot of people who are. It's not my issue.
Not my issue. Of course, she's a hypocrite. I mean, no matter where you stand on legalizing marijuana or not, it is interesting that in this race for Attorney General of California, the Republican was in favor, the Democrat was against. By the way, in very blue, very Democrat California, Kamala Harris won this race for Attorney General by like a fraction of a percentage point. That's how California really thought of a San Francisco DA becoming their Attorney General. That was also when California was a little more competitive. What was it, 14 years ago, I want to say. But also, the most important part of this is the lying and the hypocrisy, because, of course, when she was running for vice president, she would go on urban-focused radio stations and talk about how she used to get stoned in college and loved smoking pot. So she's a hypocrite. She's also a liar, because obviously she was fine with the legalization of marijuana. When the people of California took it up on a ballot measure, she said nothing about it. Okay, moving on. Kamala could have joined other states' efforts to take marijuana off the DEA's list of most dangerous substances, or she could have refused to defend the law. Instead, she chose to send thousands of disproportionately Black Californians to jail. Well, that was because she had major ambitions to run nationally and to be the senator from California. And, being able to point to things and throwing people in jail makes you look tough. And when you're running as a woman, you got to look tough. All right, moving on. While she was DA, San Francisco is responsible for 40% of all California's felony drug arrests. Black women, 50 times the rate of other counties. 1 in 10 of her Black constituents were arrested in 1 year alone. Kamala increased the percentage of them to get elected. Now, convicted. Again, this is an argument from the left. People, liberals, left-wingers who don't like Kamala Harris. But let me also point out that she's completely flip-flopped on all of this too. And as soon as it became fashionable to say defund the police, she was leading the charge to defund the police. A charge to defund the very law enforcement apparatus that she used so robustly to further divide our nation along racial lines. Kamala locked up so many people, the Supreme Court ruled her prisons were unconstitutionally overcrowded. She not only refused to release folks, she argued that her prison labor, legal slavery by definition, was too profitable to give up. That's right. She used convicts for labor and argued that it was a great thing to do because it saved the state of California so much money. When supporting legal weed became politically expedient, Kamala shifted to laughing about how she herself smoked while locking others up for the same thing. That's right. Thank you. I already pointed that out. Moving on, as part of her tough on crime approach, Kamala assigned senior prosecutors to misdemeanors like graffiti and vandalism, tripling the number of cases brought to trial. Yet then at the same time, when it was politically expedient for her, she embraced the idea of letting criminals run rampage through the streets of San Francisco and other cities in California. My point is, she doesn't actually stand for anything except advancing her own lamentable political career. She stands for winning at all costs and changing her positions, no matter how destructive they are to certain communities or to the greater community at large, if it means she wins an election and she gets power. It makes her the perfect Democrat. It makes her a lot like Joe Biden. Kamala laughed about putting parents in jail if their kids miss school, disproportionately harming single-parent households, the poor, and families of color, including homeless mothers. And she did literally laugh about that. Kamala even pushed a law forcing schools to turn undocumented students over to ICE, separating them from their parents and violating their human rights. But then, of course, when she became vice president or running for vice president and she was opposing Donald Trump, well, not only did she not want to use ICE to kick students out of school and out of the country, she wanted to dismantle ICE completely. You understand who Kamala Harris is now? Again, not a personal attack. This is all based on her policies, and this is what the left thinks of her. Why is this a problem for Kamala Harris? Oh, who cares? They're going to vote for me too because they hate Trump. Not so fast. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I want to remind you right now, when you look at the polling of Biden and Harris, and you're going to see a lot of, oh, it's tightening in this state and it's tightening in that state, and it may be tightening. This is the heyday for Kamala Harris. This is the honeymoon that she's going to get from the media, and nobody is actually looking at her record like we are right now. You're much more informed than the average voter because you're watching this. But trust me, the head-to-head Kamala versus Trump polls are literally meaningless. The only thing that matters in this election cycle is the five-way race. Why? Because, in fact, this is a five-way race. This is not a head-to-head race. Every single ballot in every single meaningful state will have Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. It will also have Robert Kennedy, Jill Stein, and Cornel West. Those last three are running against this Kamala Harris. Oh, yes, they're running against Trump, but they're running against this Kamala Harris. So pay attention to that. That's why I wanted to share with you. And there's more. Go check out Holding Biden Accountable's account. And we've got a write-up on this over at Twitchy in the Town Hall Media Empire. I want to leave it with this last word because, you know, this whole idea of white guys for Harris and white chicks for Harris and Kamala, scrutinizing Kamala Harris's record and people deciding to vote for her, even though she doesn't have any accomplishments, but she's a black woman after all. And it's time. It's time. Well, our friends at Twitchy found this black woman on TikTok who has a contrary opinion that I think is worth taking a look at. If you have someone in your life who's a black woman actually, let me rephrase that. If you have someone in your life who is voting for Kamala Harris for the sole reason that she is a black woman and it's time, I want you to share this with them.
Listen to me. I don't give a damn if Kamala Harris is black, if she's white, if she's Chinese, Japanese, Filipino, Indian. It doesn't matter. If she was a bad vice president, which she is, she's not going to make a good president. All she's done these last 4 years is tinker around the country with one talking point, only speaking in rhyme, and she has aided in the destruction of this country right alongside Joe Biden. If you're going to vote for that, knowing everything that you've seen these last 4 years, then you're an idiot.
There you go. Voice of change. I like her, and I liked that. And have you noticed that there's a lot more of that going on right now? A whole lot more. Plan on seeing even that much more between now and Election Day. Hey, I don't know if you got the memo, but apparently J.D. Vance is weird, and so is Donald Trump. They're just weird. And not wrong on the issues, not mistaken on economic and tax policy, not dangerous on the border and national. No, that's boring. No, they're just weird. And by the way, when I say, did you get the memo? I mean, literally, there had to have been a memo sent out. Like talking points, like, hey, everybody, this is the word of the day. Weird is the word of the day. It's like Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse. The word of the day is weird. And our friends over at Gravy and Tom Elliott has put together a little bit of compilation. This is just in like a 16-hour time span on the corporate-owned legacy propaganda media. Look at how they take their marching orders.
Some of what he and his running mate are saying, well, it's just plain weird.
These guys are just weird. That's where they are. As weird and creepy as J.D. Vance. Super weird idea from J.D. Vance.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's quite weird. Just plain weird. Just plain weird. Just plain weird.
That stuff is weird. They come across weird and then they start being weird. Yeah, they're weird.
Being a really weird.
He's such a weirdo.
Donald Trump and his weirdo running mate are weird.
deeply and profoundly weird.
They are weird. These Republicans just being weird. It's just weird. It's really weird.
Republican weirdness goes even deeper.
He said a lot of things that are weird, a weird style that he brings, weird policies. Let's start with the weird thing, because it is a thing.
Just plain weird.
What was weird was talking about Diet Mountain Dew. Who drinks Diet Mountain Dew?
You ever seen the guy laugh? That seems very weird to me that that an adult can go through 6.5 years of being in the public eye. If he has laughed, it's at someone, not with someone. That is weird behavior.
Weird and cultish.
These are weird people on the other side.
He kind of doubled down on his weird ideas.
I think weird is probably generous.
Simply weird.
These guys are just plain weird.
Vance as weird.
You know, as the campaign said, weird.
It really is just plain weird.
JD Vance, plain weird.
I mean, I don't know how else you could read it.
Weird. It is kind of weird.
We're not afraid of weird people.
The other side, they're just weird. Why are you being so weird?
Vance has done something more extreme, more weird.
No matter what kind of weird stuff they keep saying.
Trump and Vance are just weird, in addition to being dangerous to democracy.
It's the weird part that's the most engaging.
Whom he addressed as my beautiful Christians, which was super weird.
Weird tech bro, JD Vance.
He's a weird guy.
JD Vance, uneasy and sort of weird.
Frankly, for lack of a better word, that he's weird.
Sarcastic remarks that aren't even funny, and he kind of shows that he can't really deliver a one-liner.
So, Sam, weird is the word here in terms of initial impressions from Vance.
Yeah, good job, Grabian. Love those guys. And it's just, well, it's weird when you see them. I mean, that's what's weird, right? I get unnerved by this, especially the presentation of it. These are people who, do you notice how they think they're clever? That they think that they're the first ones to think of it, that they're in some way being, genuine and intelligent. And hey, it just occurred to me, you know what? He's weird. These are paid professionals whose job it is to express opinions and give analysis of the news, and they can't think for themselves. They're more than willing to do the propaganda work that they've been commanded to do. And so they want this weird thing to stick. Also, by the way, I'm told on pretty good authority that with the Gen Zers, the real young Zoomers, they use the word Ohio as a slang term for weird and odd, which, by the way, as a Michigan man, I totally get and appreciate. Right? Am I right? Go Blue. Kevin, can you verify this? Because you tangle with that age group. Is Ohio like a slang term for weird?
Larry, I think, technically I am Gen Z, barely.
But you identify as millennial.
I have the soul of a boomer. Like I don't get any of this stuff.
You actually have the soul of somebody who stormed the beaches in Normandy. You're more of a greatest generation type, trapped in the body of a Zoomer. All right, that's fair. Well, I am told that, and so maybe they're trying to link Ohio with weird because JD Vance is from Ohio as well. And I guess they've written off that state. I remember when it used to be a battleground state. Well, if you've been waiting for JD Vance to finally push back and respond to this very bizarre and frankly weird attack on him, you don't have to wait any further. Last night, he put out a statement that is pretty fire, actually, and I want to share it with you. Border czar Kamala Harris, and that's, by the way, Kamala Harris should only be referred to as one of two things, either San Francisco, California liberal Kamala Harris or border czar Kamala Harris. I love that. It's fantastic. Found the time to write a letter to Dylan Mulvaney, yet hasn't found any time to say even a single word about Laken Riley. I find it very weird that Kamala is so cold and heartless about the American kids dying because of her open border policies. And then he posted this statement. He posted this verification of what he's talking about. Dylan Mulvaney, a biological man who identifies as a transgender woman, has apparently received a letter of praise from Vice President Kamala Harris. I send you my warmest greetings as you celebrate your 365th day of living authentically. Read the note Mulvaney posted on Instagram, which appears to be from Harris. Thank you for courageously sharing your story and your journey. I appreciate your continued advocacy for transgender equality, including during your visit to the White House last year. Let's not forget that Joe Biden had Dylan Mulvaney as a White House correspondent to ask specific questions about transgender policies. So here's Kamala Harris embracing the dude who ruined the Bud Light brand with one 30-second video. That's amazing. And it's great that JD Vance is going on the offensive there and going after her weirdness. Because, yeah, I mean, listen, America, you get to decide what's weird or not. And frankly, if you watch Dylan Mulvaney trying to sell you Bud Light, I think most Americans have voted with their wallets and with their beer steins and decided, yeah, that's too weird for me, but not Kamala Harris. Not too weird for Kamala Harris at all. JD Vance last week, by the way, during a rally, sort of talked about himself. And I want to play you this clip here because this is the man that Democrats, Kamala Harris, Hollywood, pop culture, your late night comedians, all of cable news, as you just saw from that montage, pretty much everyone in the smart set, in the intellectual smart set. This is the guy that people want you to believe is weird. And I want you to be the judge. What you're about to see is the man Donald Trump picked to be his running mate. And Democrats think that this guy represents the outskirts of America, the fringe, the weirdness. They don't want Americans to believe that JD Vance actually represents mainstream heartland USA. They want you to think he's weird. Okay, judge for yourself.
I saw the other day Kamala Harris question my loyalty to this country. That's the word she used, loyalty. And it's an interesting word, simplify, loyalty, because there is no greater sign of disloyalty to this country than what Kamala Harris has done at our southern border. And I'd like to ask the Vice President, what has she done to question my loyalty to this country? I served in the United States Marine Corps. I went to Iraq for this country. I built a business for this country. And my running mate took a bullet for this country. So my question to Kamala Harris is, what the hell have you done to question our loyalty to the United States of America? And the answer, my friends, is nothing. So let's send a message to the media. Let's send a message to Kamala Harris. Let's send a message to every hardworking patriot from Minnesota across the country. We are ready to have President Donald J. Trump back, and we're going to work our tails off to make sure it happens. God bless you all. Thank you. And thank you for having me, Minnesota, a great state.
Now, listen, again, I leave it to your judgment. If you think that that is weird, vote accordingly, I suppose. To me, I mean, it's kind of the story you want your son to grow up and accomplish, right? You want your daughter to marry a dude like that. JD Vance isn't weird. JD Vance is kind of cool, actually. He sort of embodies exactly what most people would want out of a young man growing up in America, even with the odds against him. And yeah, he fought in Joe Biden's war over in Iraq wearing the uniform. And now they reduce him to being weird. You know why they don't like JD Vance? You know why they call him weird? Because he's saying stuff that they're not used to hearing. He's actually speaking on behalf of all of those forgotten Americans from Western Pennsylvania all the way into Minnesota and down to Oklahoma, who have been left in the dust by the globalist, high-tech, innovative, free trade around the world, don't worry about manufacturing anymore, elites. And he comes from there, and he speaks for them. He's concerned about migration policy. He's concerned about the brain drain that happens in small-town, rural America, where people are left behind because all of the young people who got their education there leave and go to urban centers and live on the coast and let those cities literally decay into piles of rust. What about the people who still live there? Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and their friends in the media who think that JD Vance is weird, they would just flick their hand and say, they can learn to code. Well, J.D. Vance actually cares about those people. He talks about those people. He talks with those people. He talks for those people. Now, you can call that weird if you want. Go ahead. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's also pretty American. Now, the media has been exposed, though, as the propagandists they are with their constant repetition of weird, 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 weird. And so, of course, they're scrambling now, and they have to cover, and they have to figure out, we didn't get talking points or anything. We didn't get a memo. We weren't all given marching orders. We're not all repeating the same thing because we were told to. No. You want to know where it came from? You want to know where the whole weird thing came from?
I mean, part of the reason why so many people love you, I mean, is because you've basically made weird happen. And everybody's echoing their weird, how they talk about this is weird. You stuck this label onto Trump and J.D. Vance. It's really taken off. And the campaign is using it. Surrogates are using it. It's pretty simple.
Well, look, you're seeing that. And this observation of weird came from people I know, my friends, my relatives, Republicans, some of them, that this is just awkward. They're awkward. And it stems from who's asking for this crazy stuff? Who's asking to raise the price of insulin? Who's asking to get rid of birth control? They do these focus groups or whatever. Who's sitting in a bar in Racine, Wisconsin saying, we need to ban Animal Farm? Nobody is. They're talking about real things. So
so it's Republicans who came up with the weird thing. Yeah. Oh, we learned it from Republicans. Really, can you name them? Republican friends of mine. Tim Walz doesn't have any Republican friends, I assure you. But what's interesting here, and not being noted by other people in the media, so I'll go ahead and note it for you because that's why you come here. Tim Walz is now a leading advocate for the Kamala Harris campaign. He's the governor from Minnesota, right? He's the one who they threw out to Jen Psaki to try to get there. Why? Suddenly, he's on the short list of potential vice presidential candidates for Kamala Harris. Why? We're told that Kamala Harris wants to accomplish several things with her running mate choice. She wants to get a white guy because, that's how they think. Oh, we got to fill a slot and check a box. And I'm a woman of color, so let's get a white guy. Okay? So it's going to be a white guy, and it's going to be from a state that they're worried about. We're told it could be Mark Kelly in Arizona. It could be Josh Shapiro in Wisconsin. It could be the governor of North Carolina, although I think that they've written off North Carolina at this point. It's unsalvageable. Or they're telling us this guy from Minnesota. Well, that's weird, isn't it? Since when is Minnesota such an important state? We mentioned this yesterday that they keep counting Minnesota as a border state, or as a battleground state. And Minnesota literally hasn't voted for a Republican since 1972. So why in the hell do they need Tim Walz? What does he represent? I assure you, as somebody from Michigan, Minnesota people aren't like Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. It's a very different state. So to think that having him is going to shore up Western Pennsylvania, nah, sorry about that. So why Minnesota? Why Minnesota? Why Minnesota? Well, I have a hunch. I have an idea. I have a guess. Which brings us back to the clip I just showed you, that really effective rally that J.D. Vance held, where he was going on and on about his career and challenging Kamala Harris. This was in the first week after the convention where they sent J.D. Vance out there to do a rally all by himself. Did you notice where it was?
Send a message to the media. Let's send a message to Kamala Harris. Let's send a message to every hardworking patriot from Minnesota across the country. We are ready to have President Donald J. Trump back, and we're going to work our tails off to make sure it happens. God bless you all. Thank you. And thank you for having me, Minnesota, a great state.
I think they're worried about Minnesota. I think they're kind of panicked about Minnesota. And that's why they send him out there to make fun of J.D. Vance and call him weird. And when they can't get the governor of Minnesota, they get an odious left-wing political commentator like Molly Jong-Fast. On MSNBC, she took the weird thing one extra step. J.D. Vance is worried about the downfall of the American family. He's worried that we're not having enough babies to support the social structure, not just the government social structure of Medicare and Social Security and getting taxpayers in there, but also about these towns, these communities that have been built and have been standing for over 100 years in the Midwest that are just decaying. Again, like I said, because of the Great Migration policy, you've got young people going out of state to get their college education and staying and never coming back and bringing back their education and bringing back the things that they've learned and the skills that they've learned to help keep those cities thriving. And how do you keep those cities thriving? You got to have kids. You got to have babies. And there seems to be a policy from abortion all the way down to embracing transgender and gender dysphoria as a valued policy of the left that actually undercuts the idea of human beings procreating. And this doesn't take a great, visionary to understand. Look at Western Europe. They've gone down this path already. And their birth rates are cratering. So J.D. Vance talks about that and talks about the embrace that the left has of the childless society, pointing out that that leads us to financial and cultural doom. So enter Molly Jong-Fast to tell you, oh, yeah, that's really racist.
Haven't found the right partner. And Molly, the stats are there. More and more Americans choosing not to have kids, which again emphasizes why J.D. Vance's comments about childless Americans, childless cat ladies, could be so politically damaging.
Well, so what's interesting is this natalism that comes from an authoritarian playbook, right? That there need to be more white children, right? That's the idea that there's, this is about great replacement theory, racism, right? This is what this is. So
do you ever wonder if when they're putting together their talking points for a television show like this, that they basically sort of use a Mad Libs formula? And they've got blanks. This is blank, and it comes from blank, and it's really all about blank. And they basically just constantly fill in the same 8 words: authoritarianism, racism, great replacement theory, white supremacy. Just juggle the words up, throw them back down in the Mad Libs form, and you've got your answer. But I just want to point out, once again, this idea, oh, no, it's not about having babies. It's about having white babies. That's why J.D. Vance is so incredibly dangerous. J.D. Vance is such a... If he is a white supremacist, he is the worst possible white supremacist. This is a man who has gone out of his way to bring into the world, not 1, not 2, 3 mixed race children. I mean, if he's a white supremacist and only cares about white babies, why in the hell did he deliberately choose to bring in 3 mixed race babies? What does he loathe his own children because of their dirty blood? What is wrong with these people? Well, I'll answer the question. They're insidious, evil morons is what they are. And the moron part, I'm being generous. I'm going to be generous and think that she's just stupid and she can't put 2 and 2 together to recognize that it's pretty hard for J.D. Vance to be a white nationalist if he's married to a woman of color and brought babies into this world who are children of color. So I'm granting her the grace and leeway to be stupid about that instead of just being evil. I'm going to let our buddy Brian Kilmeade on Fox and Friends this morning wrap up the whole idea of J.D. Vance is weird. I think he had a really, really good reaction to the J.D. Vance is weird thing. By the way, it shouldn't be lost on any of us that this woman right here, she's the one that the left thinks is normal. J.D. Vance, Marine, Yale graduate, business owner, U.S. Senator, he's weird. This woman, normal. All right, let's go to Kilmeade.
They said that Governor Tim Walz said it first. This is the theory. And they said, people say, I'm sure they've been poll tested, and maybe that's traditional. But no, it wasn't working. Saying Trump's a threat to democracy, because no one thinks that. There are people that don't like him that think that, but you're not winning over independents.
Because they don't understand.
It wasn't resonating. So they say you're trying to scare people. You try to put him in court. You try to put him in jail. That didn't work. Then you said he's a threat to democracy. That wasn't effective. So now you go, okay, why don't we just say they're weird? I have news for you. There's a lot of people in America who go, you know what? I'm a little weird. My friend's a little weird. My parents are a little weird. So I don't
So I'm
think...
going to vote for the weird guy?
Right, yeah. I'm like, I kind of relate to somebody that's not perfect, a little quirky. We already know you cannot define Donald Trump to anybody on this planet. They've already made their opinion. And for J.D. Vance, maybe this approached him, but you saw the movie, you read the book, you know about his upbringing, you watched him run for Senate, you've seen him for 6 years or to a year and a half, but you watch him run for 1. So I don't know how much weird is there.
I rewatched it this weekend. I love this movie, and I love his story. It's number 7 on Netflix. So a lot of people are watching Hillbilly Elegy right now. But I think that whole talking point is what's weird. It's such a strange, childish word to use to describe a candidate you're running against. Do you think that's effective? Is anyone going to say, oh, I'm not going to vote for that guy because everyone says he's weird?
Look at, remember the Bowery Boys? Saturday mornings used to air.
What am I, 80?
Remember Sachin, right? And what's the other guy? Muggsy?
Well, Muggs,
Yeah, but almost everybody that we watched on television growing up was quirky and weird. That's what made them special, right? We're starting then. And so I just think that weird is cool. Actually.
All right. Well, I don't know about the Bowery Boys reference there, but I will agree with Kilmeade on this, and we'll leave it at this. If what Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and the Republican Party laid out for us at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee is weird, first take it from the source. Who's calling it weird? The leftists are calling it weird. The leftists who, as J.D. Vance pointed out, are embracing J.D. Mulvaney as a hero. Excuse me, J.D. Mulvaney. Embracing Dylan Mulvaney as a hero and celebrating Drag Queen Story Hour. And Pete Buttigieg going on a whites-only Zoom call telling guys that they got to vote for Kamala so that they have more freedom thanks to abortion. Now, those are the people who are calling us weird for our ideas, our policies, and a way of governing that actually kept us safe and peaceful and prosperous for 4 years until Joe Biden and his Democrats ruined it all. They think we're weird. And if that's true, and if that's the case, and they get to redefine words in our culture because they're the left after all, then fine. Call me weird. Whatever. As long as we win. That's it for today. We'll be back next time. In the meantime, I'm Larry O'Connor. You can call me weird.